Is Jillian Leslie here on a Monday. Oh my God. And it's the week of Christmas. I'm going on my phone to make sure this is working. Anyway, I can't believe that it's like the end of 2021. It feels super weird. But you know what? We're making it through. That's what I would say. So anybody, if you are here, tell me where you're from, because I think I've got my comments up, and this is I always love showing up and doing it. So what I wanted to talk about today was this idea of imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs. So this is the first podcast episode I did for the Blogger Genius, where I had somebody on to talk specifically about these two things. And what was by the way, and the episode has been incredibly successful. People really want to talk about this and hear about it. And you know why? Because we all suffer from it. Because it's natural and it's normal. And when you put yourself out there, this is what happens. We feel like we are frauds. And we feel like we're going to be found out. So it's like we're kind of weirdly in conflict with ourselves. And I talk about this in the episode where I interviewed this woman named Maria Condi, who's like a mindset coach, business coach. And I thought what was so interesting, and I noticed this too, because remember, for Milo Tree Easy Payments, my goal is for you to set up a paid workshop and get paid for what you know from your audience. So when I say to people, okay, like let's pick a topic that you want to teach about, that you want to share your knowledge, and I go, what are you an expert in? I can see everybody kind of shrink and go, oh, I'm not an expert in anything. Stop saying that. So believe me, it was also funny because in my Facebook group, I said, okay, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an imposter do you feel like? And I think I said like a 6, but it was fun to see people's responses. Some people are like 10, other people like depends on the day, but we all have this. It's like a universal truth. And I think it feels icky to talk about because it's like, it's kind of exposing ourselves and our fears. And so I wanted to say that a lot of our imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs are a strategy that we use to weirdly protect ourselves. Like a part of us is like, ooh, don't go be embarrassed because you might be embarrassed and people might kind of reject you. So don't even do it. So part of us is like continually guarding us, while there's a part of us that's like, no. I know I need to do this. I know I need to put myself out there. I know I need to try new things. I know there's the possibility of failure. And then there's this other part of our brain that goes, don't fail, bad, bad, bad. Almost like a voice from our childhood where we don't want to feel rejected and we don't want to not feel love and all of these things. And what's interesting, and Maria and I talked about this, is they can happen, be coexisting at the same time or close to the same time, and we don't know they both exist. And for me, somehow when I can shine the light on the parts of my brain that are out there sabotaging me, although what I would argue is it also weirdly is trying to protect me, when I can shine the light on it and go, it's okay, you don't need to be trying to protect me so much, like I'm going to do this and I'm not going to die, and I'm willing to risk it, I'm able to calm, for me, that part of my brain down. I don't know if that resonates with you and if that's something that you feel also. But speaking to those scary voices, I find helpful. I really do. And the other thing that we talked about that I thought was really good, and I know this, but I have gotten out of practice, is using affirmations, which seem dumb. Like I'm really going to just talk to myself and it's all going to, or say things, say mantras, and somehow it's all going to be okay. But I had just read a study that using your own name, like saying, Jillian, you got this. You got this, Jillian. You know what you're doing. Weirdly kicks you into feeling like you've got a coach who's cheering you on, even though it is you, because there are all of these different parts to our brain. I was listening to this woman. She's a neuroscientist, and her name is Lisa Feldman Barrett. And I recommend you search for her. I'll put a link to a podcast episode I listened to her talk about. And it is this idea that like there is no CEO in our brains. There are all these different parts to our brains and they're all kind of chattering. So if you can hijack the ones that are saying not always such nice things, you can almost co-opt the other parts. Interesting concept. So I just want to, I'm going onto Facebook. I want to make sure that you guys, that this is working because I'm always nervous because I don't want you to judge me. I'm always nervous about my technology to see if it, oh, there I am. Okay, good. It's working. Anyway, so I've started to use more affirmations in the morning, very briefly. But I have to say, it could be placebo effect. Who knows? But I think it kind of is working. And all I'm doing is saying, like, Jillian, you got this. You're going to have a really good day. You're going to be really productive. You're on this, just in terms of, say, for us, launching mileage easy payments. Like, it's working, and just keep going and keep putting your truth out there and keep supporting others, and you will reap the rewards. And I don't know, but it does make it starts my day off better. I am, if anybody knows about the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 6, which is, I'm fear-based. So what Enneagram 6s are like, we see the world through safety. So safe, not safe, safe, not safe. So I'm constantly moving through my world, evaluating if I'm safe or not. And one thing that's interesting about Enneagram 6s is that you can be a phobic 6 or what's called a counterphobic 6, which are people who say jump out of airplanes, like they need to challenge their fears. I'm more of a phobic 6. However, just by the fact that I start businesses with David, my husband, and I show up on Facebook and I just do this stuff, I think is like an element of counterphobic 6. So don't think I'm not freaking out on the inside. Absolutely. But I do think that I must have this desire to kind of push myself off the cliff and see what happens. So anyway, I don't even know where I was, but just in terms of being a 6, I am always approaching the world from a place of fear. And I think that doing affirmations small in the morning before I get out of bed just helps orient me in a different direction, in a better direction. So I just recommend that you think about just saying something to yourself and using your name. It sounds goofy, but to just be cheering yourself on. And almost like if you have children and you want to cheer your kids on, to almost be the parent so that you can bring those same good feelings. So that's just a strategy that I've been using that's weirdly been working for me. And I'd love to know what strategies you use. Now, here's another one that I use. And I got this from, I don't know, I think Tara Brach, who is like a meditation teacher. And she says this, real, but not true. And what that means is like you have this limiting belief, like I'm never going to be able to do this, or it's never going to work out for me. And that feeling feels really real, but is it true? Like if you interrogate it, do you really know that it's not going to work out for you? No, you don't, but it feels really real. So something about, for me, like if I'm having, say, a negative thought, and I'm like, and somebody will go, like my husband, like David, will be like, oh no, it's not true. Oh, it's not, that's, you're crazy or something. And he doesn't really say it like that, but you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, but that invalidates my feeling because the feeling is, it feels really real. Like you can't just dismiss it and be like, no, don't think that. It feels so real. But if I interrogate it, if I question it and say, yeah, but is it true? How do I know that it is true? Is very powerful for me because it helps me separate from the intensity of the feeling to kind of almost like if, let's say, there are these different facets to our brains. There's the part that's just like feeling stuff, and then there's more of the rational part. So I have to not just use my rational part and go, no, don't think that, that's dumb. It feels too real. I'm too triggered. I'm too reactive. I'm reeling from whatever that feeling is. So it's like, let me spin out of control. And then at the same time, take that rational part of my brain to say, okay, but is this true? Like, is it true? And to know that something can feel really real and at the same time not be true. And that is one of the ways that I try really hard to challenge my limiting beliefs. Like, how do I know that? How do I know it's not going to work? How do I know nobody's going to sign up? How do I know what we're building is dumb, or this podcast episode isn't going to work, or who knows? So those are some strategies. So that for limiting beliefs, I highly, highly recommend thinking about challenging your thoughts, feelings, and acknowledging that they couldn't feel more real. Something about that really flipped a switch for me, because I think that I didn't recognize that those two things could coexist simultaneously, meaning feels really real and it's not true. And you know this if you have children, because they are, especially when they're young, like they're not rational, they don't get it. And so, like they'll be really tired and cranky, and you say, and they're melting down, and you say, you're tired and cranky, and they say no, but they are, and they feel it, but rationally, it's just think about it. Think about treating yourself not as like one cohesive person, but really to dissect these different parts and to recognize that you're not crazy, that these things can coexist. For me, game changer. And so in terms of imposter syndrome, which we all struggle with, I think for me, acknowledging that I have imposter syndrome, that I think that the other shoe is going to drop, and people are going to find out that I'm not as together or knowledgeable as I think or am hiding, that kind of thing. I think being able to laugh at myself. And, I remember hearing this thing, which is, when we get some really good feedback or something, we're not as great as we think we are, and we're also not as horrible as we think we are. We're somewhere in the middle. And that for me is really powerful. So, am I the best business coach out there? No, but I'm also probably pretty good, and I'm not the worst. So when I go to any extreme, to recognize, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And, I always say, like with my daughter, I'm like, wow, you're really smart. And there will always be smarter people. Trust me. Or you're really not good at that. But don't worry, there are going to be people who are worse at it. So somewhere being kind of in the middle, I think is also a nice place to rest. And it's a nice place to be when feeling like you're suffering from imposter syndrome. So you don't have to be the best. And chances are you're not the worst either. And for people who swing between those two, just trying to figure out where that middle ground is, I think is the goal. So on imposter syndrome, be somewhere around a 5. You're not the biggest fraud, but you're also just not as awesome as you might think you are at times. And that's I think a healthy place to be. So that's how I think. Oh, and the other thing with imposter syndrome is I then acknowledge my imposter syndrome, and then I try to get out of my own way and get my work done. Like an athlete, let's say, who has a sore, I don't know, pulled a muscle, and it's like sore, but still goes to practice and still does whatever he or she has to do. That's kind of how I think about imposter syndrome. Some days it's worse than others, but then I go, okay, here's my imposter syndrome. Some days it's like this, and some days it's like this. But to kind of go, okay, whatever it is, I'm going to put you aside right now because I got work to do. For me, it shrinks it down and makes it more manageable. Of course, it's going to be there. Again, I think the idea that somehow we're going to get all our ducks in a row and everything's going to be terrific, and then we're going to start working on our business, it doesn't work that way. It's on that crappy day when it's pouring out and you've got a headache and you didn't sleep the night before. Guess what? Get some work done. You don't have to get a ton of work done, but make sure to get some work done, because it's working in the difficulty. It's showing up day after day after day. That's how we grow and make changes and experiment and try things. So it's a little bit like there's this storm of emotions going on, and some days it's really calm, like the weather, it's calm, and other days it's crazy bad. And you kind of recognize that these are weather systems, and they come and then they go. And especially if you've ever been to a place like Hawaii, where it can be pouring one minute and then sunny the next moment, that's kind of how we can be emotionally. Now, some people are probably more even keel. Other people have tremendous shifts in weather. And that's kind of the background that, what's happening, but can you still get your work done? So those are my thoughts about imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs. One thing that I am definitely going to be doing is more episodes on this, because I think it's really, I think it resonates with me, and I think it resonates with my audience. And especially if you're a solopreneur and it's you every day facing yourself, pushing that rock up the hill, that's a lot. And it's hard to cheerlead for yourself every day, especially if something happens that doesn't quite go your way, like you launch something and it doesn't sell like you thought it would, or you create a blog post and it just doesn't have the success that you thought it would. Therefore, it is about like doing those strategies, like using your name and saying, Jillian, it's going to be okay. You're okay. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. You got this. You know what you're doing. Put it out there. Risk it. Who cares? The love's not going to go away. And so here are my recommendations. Think about being your biggest cheerleader. It sounds goofy, it feels weird in the beginning, but use your name and see if you can then touch yourself with, like, if you can be that cheerleader. And just something about hearing your own name makes you pay attention. It does. So try that. And the other thing is to recognize we're somewhere in the middle. We're not the best and we're not the worst. Even when we feel like we're the best, we're not. And when we feel like we're the worst, we're not. So recognizing that we're somewhere in the middle, I think, is really beneficial. And then the third thing is to know that things can feel really, really real and not be true. And that can happen. And that happens a lot. And the more we can acknowledge it or notice it, the better. So think about putting together some affirmations. Like, none of this takes a lot of time. A lot of it is just self-talk and recognizing our chatter and recognizing when we're not in a good pattern and when we are sabotaging ourselves. And is there a way for us to recognize that nobody is looking at us like we think they are? Nobody's judging us. It's so funny because I noticed this, like, with my husband and my daughter. Like, I will notice, oh my God, my roots are growing in. It must be so horrible. And I'll say something to them like, do you notice my roots? They have no idea. They're not even looking at it. And it's so shocking because I'm inside me. That's all I see. And to them, it's like nothing. So these are the kinds of things where we can kind of shrink ourselves down and just recognize, this is the last thing I want to share, focus on just loving your people and making their lives better. It's just such a better headspace to be in. It doesn't matter what my day is like. If I can make your day a tiny bit better, that's it. That's the goal. So it gets me out of me and puts me in the place of being of service and growing a business at the same time. It's not a charity. But if I can grow a business and make other people's lives better, that is a win-win. So that's what I want to leave you guys with. So I'm going to be popping in again, and I am home for the holidays. We're not going anywhere. So I'm just kind of slowly doing some work, trying to enjoy myself. We've been renovating our kitchen for 5 months, and it's been a very slow process, and we are not done. However, we can actually use our kitchen. So weirdly, I feel like I'm having like the best staycation ever, because yesterday we baked cookies in our new oven. I didn't do it. Actually, my daughter did. But just the idea of having home cooked meals feels like such a treat, and going out for food feels so not exciting. It's like shocking how everything's been turned upside down. So I'm really enjoying my staycation here. And so please share in a comment, that you've watched the replay, whether this resonates with you. And if you have strategies that help you with things like imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs, share them with me, because I would love to try them out myself and also share them with this wonderful community of people who care about this stuff. So please let me know. And let me know what you're doing for the holidays and if you're traveling. And please just check in with me. And I really feel like 2022 is the year of the creator. And it is really the empowerment of you. And I hope to help you do that so that you can kind of take your limiting beliefs and kind of put them over here, get to work, and really serve your people, love on your people. What could be better? So that's it. I'll probably pop in again before Christmas. If not, Merry Christmas. And I just love that you are part of this community. Okay, take care.